There's a global economic crisis. It's hardly controversial to say that Europe suffers from high energy prices, rapid deindustrialization, and a lack of ideas where to go next. The US has some areas of high tech growth from the so called Magnificent Seven top tech companies, but their stock prices are extremely high, not to say inflated, and overall, US growth numbers rely on those stocks. For the 99% of people who don't work for the Magnificent Seven, the numbers look challenging. And then there's China, which boasts more than 5% economic growth, but many Chinese are gloomy about the growth prospects, about their job prospects, investment opportunities, and overall are asking, where is this growth really happening? We all know that GDP calculation isn't an exact science, so I won't argue about the decimal points in Chinese GDP numbers. But what people need to keep in mind, though, is the sheer size of China. Its population exceeds the combined populations of the US, the EU plus Britain, Switzerland, Norway, and other non members from Western Europe, plus Japan, plus Korea, plus Australia, and then some. So the number of people in China is just breathtaking. Nobody can see what everybody else is doing. Long story short, I do believe there's massive growth happening in some parts of the Chinese economy, even though it sometimes doesn't feel great because of the razor thin margins in growth industries like the car industry, for example. Chinese EVs are growing double digits, but profit margins are falling along with the sale prices. Now, this means profits are low, but that doesn't mean GDP isn't growing. And Chinese EVs are a good keyword. I remember 10 years ago when I was working at VW, how German engineers basically laughed off the idea of government commanded technology choices towards new energy vehicles. The government doesn't understand cars, they said. Our diesel engines are cleaner than their electric cars charged with coal power, they said. That hasn't aged well with the diesel part. Nowadays, China outproduces by far the rest of the world in renewable energy capacity, and a rapidly growing electric car fleet may provide the necessary energy storage to deal with the renewable energy production fluctuation. I've always been saying you cannot wait for all the electric energy to be clean until you start transitioning your cars to electric. You have to do it in parallel. And as I fully approve how China has top down planned their car industry transition with a complex mix of incentives, regulation, restrictions, and state investment, I now see another industry coming at the horizon: the low altitude economy. Before even going into what it is exactly and define it and why you should care, today I just want to lay out why I want to use the low altitude economy as an example to illustrate the Chinese method of economic development planning. Rather than the command economy planning of the USSR, Chinese political leadership focuses on very high level long term strategic planning, while in the strategy implementation, they meticulously decide what parts of the development should be left to the market, to independent private actors, which parts should be regulated but with private participation, and which parts should be fully state owned or state invested. All these terms will come up often on this channel, so be prepared. This is about economy, not only about flying cars. And while the low altitude economy is fun because who wouldn't want to fly, it's also a playbook of Chinese political economy worth studying. And I say this now when China has just decided last year that the low altitude economy would become a new driver of growth in the long term. Because everything is in place, and I've seen this before in the car industry. I have no doubt in 5 to 10 years, people in the developed countries will rub their eyes looking at China and ask, how did this happen? We don't know exactly what it will look like in 10 years, but it will include electric air transportation of people, among other things. Literally, there will be flying taxis and flying buses. Of that, I have very little doubt. And that will be a cool moment in time to look back on my program and say, this is how China has done it. And this is why I'm doing this. Thanks for watching. Please like and subscribe if you're interested in these topics.